I didn't say a word when the HOA president waved the violation letter in my face and announced that I owed over $30,000 in fines for my illegal gravel driveway. I just slid the folded engineering approval across the table, the same document with my signature on it, and watched her eyes flicker from outrage to confusion, and then to something I can only describe as fear. Her lips pressed into a thin line. She leaned back without another word. It's funny how quickly people stop shouting when they realize you were the one holding the pen on the rules they're trying to enforce. But I'm getting ahead of myself. When I first moved to that neighborhood, I wasn't looking for a fight. I'd spent 20 years working for the county, not in politics, not behind a desk, but in civil engineering. Roads, drainage systems, culverts, the quiet, boring infrastructure no one thinks about until it's gone. I'd planned to retire, in peace, maybe pick up a few consulting jobs to keep my mind sharp, and finally have time to work on my old pickup and tend a garden. The lot I bought was perfect, a little over an acre at the edge of the subdivision, with a tree line on two sides and the main county road just beyond. The existing driveway was a mess of ruts and weeds, barely usable after heavy rain. I'd been working on it slowly, hauling in clean crushed gravel from a local quarry, laying proper geotextile underlayment, grading it to slope just right. For most people, it's just a driveway. For me, it was a small piece of art done right, so it wouldn't wash out or turn into a mud pit in the spring. The HOA barely crossed my mind at first. I'd gotten the welcome packet with the usual fluff landscaping, guidelines, a newsletter about last year's barbecue, a few rules about house paint colors. Nothing about driveways that seemed unusual, and honestly I didn't think they'd care about mine. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't unsafe. It was well within county specs. Then, one morning, I found a bright orange envelope taped to my garage. The violation notice claimed my gravel driveway was non-conforming and had been installed without HOA architectural review. The kicker, they were fining me $500 per day, retroactive to the start date of the violation, which they decided was 3 months earlier. That meant I supposedly owed $45,000 for a driveway I'd built to county code. The same county code I used to enforce. At first, I honestly thought it was a mistake. I sent a polite email to the board explaining that gravel was a permitted surface under both county and HOA guidelines, attaching photos and even the original subdivision plat showing driveways just like mine. I reminded them that the county maintained the road my driveway connected to, meaning any changes I made fell under county jurisdiction, not theirs. No response. A week later, got a second notice, this one threatening a lien on my property if I didn't remedy the violation immediately. They wanted the gravel removed and replaced with poured concrete in an HOA-approved finish. I've built enough driveways to know exactly what that would cost. It wasn't pocket change, so I asked for a meeting. The president, a sharp-faced woman named Linda, who seemed to take personal offense at the existence of other people, listened just long enough to interrupt. The board has determined that your driveway is in violation, she said, like she was reading from a script. We have a standard to maintain. Gravel is not in keeping with community aesthetics. I pointed out again that half the homes in the neighborhood had gravel driveways, including the treasurer's. She didn't blink. The conversation ended with her saying, "You can either comply or face daily fines until we take legal action. Your choice." That was the day I stopped trying to reason with them. I'd spent a career dealing with people who thought rules were tools for power instead of fairness. And I'd learned a long time ago that if you really want to stop someone like that, you don't argue, you build a case. Quietly, thoroughly so. I went home and opened my old filing cabinet. The thing about being a county road engineer is that you have access to, and copies of, an incredible amount of infrastructure documentation. I pulled the original right-of-way agreements for the subdivision, the easement records, and, most importantly, the infrastructure approval forms from when the subdivision was first built 25 years ago. Every driveway location, surface, type, and grade was documented. And then I found the one piece of paper that turned this from an annoyance into a loaded weapon. The subdivision's driveway material variance approval, signed by me, dated 12 years ago. It granted permanent approval for gravel driveways meeting specific engineering standards. My gravel driveway didn't just meet those standards, it exceeded them. That night, I started building my case. I photographed every gravel driveway in the neighborhood, complete with timestamps. I filed open records requests for the HOA's own maintenance contracts, which showed they'd approved repairs and modifications to other gravel driveways in recent years. I printed everything, violations of their own rules, inconsistencies, in enforcement and documentation, proving that my driveway had been reviewed and approved by the county engineer's office, which at the time had been me. Over the next month, the HOA kept sending threats. Fines officially passed $60,000. I didn't respond once. I wanted them to walk right into my trap. Finally, they scheduled a final compliance hearing. At the clubhouse, with their attorney present, I showed up early in jeans and a clean button-down, carrying a single folder. The room was already tense, the board at one end of the table, the lawyer shuffling papers, and a few curious neighbors pretending to be there for moral support. Linda started her speech about community standards and consistent enforcement. When she got to the part about removing my illegal gravel, I opened the folder and slid the top sheet across the table. It was the engineering approval, the one with my name, signature, and county seal. The lawyer stopped mid-sentence. Linda glanced at him, then back at me. I stayed quiet, let them read it. Let them realize, in real time, that they'd been threatening a man over something he had personally approved under county authority. When the lawyer finally spoke, the voice was low. This appears to supersede any HOA architectural requirements. Linda's face flushed. She muttered something about needing to review and tried to move on, but I wasn't done. I laid out the rest of my file, the photos, the maintenance, contracts, the records of selective enforcement. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't smile. I just explained calmly that not only were they violating their own covenants, but if they proceeded with any further action, I would seek an injunction for harassment and discriminatory enforcement. And given my former position, I had no shortage of expert witnesses ready to testify. The meeting ended in under 10 minutes. Within a week, the fines were waived as a goodwill gesture. 2 weeks after that, a notice went out to all residents stating that gravel driveways were permitted if compliant with county specifications. Funny how policy changes when you show the receipts. Life went back to normal after that. I finished grading the driveway, spread one last layer of clean stone, and planted native grasses along the edges. The HOA stopped sending me letters. Neighbors I'd never spoken to before started waving when I drove by. A few even asked for advice on fixing their own driveways, which I was happy to give, free of charge. As for Linda, she stopped making eye contact. I hear she's still on the board, but she doesn't bring up driveway violations anymore, and me. I just enjoy the quiet. It's a crunch of gravel under my tires when I pull in. The way the water runs off perfectly after a storm. The knowledge that, sometimes, the best revenge isn't loud or messy. It's just the sound of someone realizing they picked the wrong person to bully.